Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
I welcome you to a two-part series. We're going to be discussing with one of my great friends the worldview of economic, social, and political developments around the world. He's traveled all over the world, and what a distinguished guest we have. Our guest holds a BS degree in business from the University of Idaho, and he holds a doctorate in jurisprudence from the University of Idaho. He's served in many, many important capacities. He's a former member of the State Board of Education, appointed by Governor Cecil Andrus. He is a great, great friend of human rights, and I want to recognize this. The fact is that our Human Rights Education Center was headquartered at his offices for around 2 years. He was generous. He charged us $1 a month, which is so supportive. I also want to point out that 2 years ago he received the Kootenai County Task Force Human Relations Civil Rights Award for his great humanitarian work. He serves as the CEO of the Coeur d'Alene Mines Corporation with work around the world. I met Dennis in 1972, and we've been friends ever since. Dennis, thank you for spending this 2 weeks with us. We're looking forward to the interview.
My pleasure, Tony, to be here.
And as always, I'm pleased to have our two regular panelists, Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in the state of Idaho, and next to her is Erna Reinhardt, who's the Director of Public Relations at North Idaho College, and Janelle will commence the questioning.
Thank you for coming today. I've really been looking forward to this interview. You've traveled all around the world, to the far reaches of the world, really, in search of business opportunities, and you've seen a lot of diverse countries and diverse populations. Can you tell us something about those places that you've traveled to?
Well, maybe a few. Janelle, I've been blessed to live in Coeur d'Alene and travel to many places. I guess Chile, Bolivia, China, Australia, Mexico, Argentina.
What is the difference? What are some of the differences? Tell us about one of those places, kind of geographically. What is it like? Let's say Bolivia, or choose one.
Well, we can spend some time talking about Bolivia because we're in the process of completing the world's newest pure silver mine there as we speak. It'll start production in March of this year. It's called San Bartolome. It's located in the city of Potosi, which was one of the early cradles of civilization. Silver was discovered there in the 1500s, and at one time, believe it or not, it was as large as the city of London. The Spanish found a great mine there called Cerro Rico. It's the mountain on the flag, and they acquired much of the wealth that resulted in the building of the Spanish Empire from Potosi. So we're at 14,500 feet there, and we've employed about 1,800 people, mostly Bolivians, and about half of whom right from the Potosi area there in building this mine. It's been a very interesting experience.
Thank you.
Erna Reinhardt.
Welcome to the show, and it's great to meet you, Dennis. Share with us how your mining company changes and alters and influences the economic development of some of these areas, and you can use any of those as an example.
We really have a template that we follow any place that we go. First of all, it's important to be a significant part of the community. We honor community traditions and practices. We embrace the local people. We do most of our buying with the local merchants. We try and establish solid relationships with the local community and political officials. And we employ nearly all of the people from the local communities. That seems to us to be the kind of the formula for success. And of course, our people are known, I think, for their environmental stewardship and participation in the communities.
We've talked many times before over lunch, and that's when I got the idea I really want you to share with our viewers, which are very broad-based, Canada and the Northwest. You know a lot of people in the political arena in this country, and as you say, around the world. And one of the success stories is that the United States Department of State is very involved with business and its development. And give us some examples of what they do and the experience you've had with them.
Well, in South America, for example, we've had very good support from both our embassies in Bolivia and in Argentina. The State Department really does take an interest in U.S. companies doing business abroad, and they have mining attaches, commercial attaches in the places where we do business, and we've found them always to have the welcome mat out, Tony.
And so that they can make your entrance to the whole process very helpful because they're obviously knowledgeable, being there for a very long time.
Yes, they help us understand the governments and the policies, and they are supportive of U.S. investment.
Another area I want you to get into about your travels, and we're going to talk about some domestic things too, and your love for education on these 2 weeks. But one thing I was really taken by it, as someone who myself is very committed to human rights, and as I opened the show, you've been incredibly generous to our organizations, not only housing them at your offices for that time until we had our own building, and you've contributed in many other ways, financially. And over lunch one day, you were talking with me about how people are so similar around the world. We often think that there's such a gap between us and distance. Share some of your thoughts about what you've learned about people all over the world and what they have in common, what their desires are, and of course there are some differences too.
I think people around the world where I've been, Tony, whether it's China or South America, Europe, Mexico, they all basically want the same things. They want to be happy in their lives. They want to have a productive job so that they can provide for themselves and their families. In the main, they share good values. I mean, they want to be happy people. Most of them want to live peacefully. And contrary to what maybe a lot of people think here, my impression is that the United States is widely respected by most of the peoples of the world today where I've been.
Another issue before going back to the panel is I've traveled limited compared with you, but I've been to several places that I thought were very beautiful. And one day you and I were discussing the great mountain ranges like the Alps and different places, and our Canadian viewers I think will be happy with what you might be saying. And you shared with me you thought one of the most incredible places in the world as far as mountain ranges was in Banff, Canada. Would you share some of these geographical comparisons?
Well, the Canadian Rockies are beautiful. Lake Coeur d'Alene is as fine a gem as there is. If you wanted to compare it with a place like Lake Geneva, I always tell people from outside the area that Coeur d'Alene Lake is probably more beautiful than Lake Geneva in my view. But of course, we have our great places like Sun Valley, etc. And the Andes in South America are spectacular mountains. We have operations in southern Chile that lie in the pastoral areas adjoining the Andes.
So this planet has a lot of, it's breathtaking in many ways in many places around the world.
Very diverse. The Atacama Desert in northern Chile, for example, is the driest place on Earth. Mining goes on there.
Mm-hmm. So you've seen a lot of this all over the world. Janelle Burke.
When Tony introduced you, he indicated that you had received your education at the University of Idaho, but he didn't say that you were a native of Wallace, Idaho, and you are. And so could you tell us a little bit about, you grew up in the center of a great mining region.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the past of mining and then the present of mining, how it is at this time, some of the changes you've seen, and then what you see as the future of mining?
Mm-hmm. I was fortunate to be born in Wallace. It was known as the silver capital of the world, and back then it was really one of the great economic mining centers in the world. Small in terms of people, maybe 18,000 or so in Shoshone County at that time, but a significant number of professionals because of the mining industry there, and wonderful public schools. I got a great education there in Wallace, and I had a chance to see many things while I was growing up there. You know, Marian Anderson, the world's greatest contralto, the original Harlem Globetrotters. I saw a Satchel Paige pitch, just a countless number of things that the mining communities provided to us. And you'd walk down the street as a young boy or girl, and many of the people in the community that were the leaders of the mining industry or professionally employed there would stop and talk to you on the street. So you really got, I guess, two educations in one growing up in Wallace.
And what were the kinds of things that led you to believe that mining would be, or the mining industry would be a good fit for you professionally?
Well, that was somewhat of an accident. As I mentioned, I grew up there, but following my law school days, I'd actually interviewed and was ready to take a job down in Twin Falls, a farming community with a firm that specialized in agriculture and water law. I didn't know much about those subjects, so one weekend, Janelle, I happened to go home to visit my family, and I got an unexpected call from a gentleman who he and his brother and father were going to turn out to be my law partners. So I decided I probably knew more about mining growing up in Wallace, so I went back home.
That's great. And how do you see mining today? How's mining fit into the whole overall picture today? Is it still a great natural resource?
Well, mining, of course, in other parts of the world is exceedingly important. It's lesser so now in the Coeur d'Alene district because, of course, the Coeur d'Alene district had a 100-year heyday. But mining is exceedingly important. Minerals today, the consumption because of the growth of the world economies, developing countries, places like China, India, are consuming huge amounts of metal. From Coeur's standpoint, you know, silver is the most widely used metal in the world. It's got more uses than any other metal, so our product has been in significant growing demand, and silver prices have risen from about $4 3 or 4 years ago to nearly $16 today, and the demand for most metals remains very strong.
And you see that going on into the future as well?
I do, for the foreseeable future, because I think the dynamics of growing populations, improved economic standards, and really what is becoming clearly a growing shortage of many metals.
You've talked a little bit about silver, but there are other metals that are important too. What are some of the other natural resources that you see as being very important?
Sure. Well, for example, lead, zinc, tin, copper, coal for energy, iron ore for steel. There's just really an unlimited use of metals in today's society.
Thank you.
Erna Reinhardt.
Dennis, as a chief executive officer of a large company, I'm intrigued to find out what you believe are your core principles that are important in managing people, and whether you think those principles are universal around the world, all over.
Yeah, I guess at core, we start off with the best people. I think that's fundamental to the success of any business, the best people that you can find. Actually, some of the best people at core are Idahoans that are educated in Idaho, or they've been educated elsewhere and have come home. I find that Coeur d'Alene is a wonderful place to recruit people to. And we have people from, you know, different nationalities, et cetera, at core. But people are clearly number one.
And do you think that's true and important for doing business anywhere around the world?
Yes, I mean, we have, you know, we always look for the best advisors, engineering firms, local miners, wherever we go. We prefer places that have a recognized mining industry and where people understand the business. But it doesn't matter whether you're in China, South America, people are really quite bright and highly educated, and they want to have the lifestyles that people in the United States enjoy. Make no mistake about that.
A lot of our viewers in this broad area that we cover are interested in economic development. And our viewers don't know this, but you have been a very key player in the economic development of our region. And not only the people you've hired in your company, but something was started here years ago called Jobs Plus. And you and others have been deeply involved in helping. Would you give some advice to communities? We've been very prosperous in recent years, and we're one of the fastest growing. I think the state of Idaho is probably the fourth fastest growing, and our region here in North Idaho has been also. Would you give some advice from your experience of communities that are having economic blight or having problems? What can they do to move in the direction that we did going back to the beginning of Jobs Plus?
It seems to me, Tony, that people are evidencing a preference for smaller rural areas. They're looking for a quieter lifestyle, and I think that's why we've seen much of the migration into the Intermountain West. And you know, we've seen the rebirth of places like Kellogg and Wallace. The real estate markets are back to where they were several years ago. And I think that small communities, if they just let themselves be known and invite people to come, they will. They'll enjoy the lifestyles of the smaller communities, and that will bring new business and feed on itself.
So they need to sell their locality and be welcoming to developing that. Again, would you share a little bit about how Jobs Plus works or how it came about?
Well, I guess it's just because a few of us sat around a table one afternoon. There was Dwayne Hagedon, Tom Richards, myself. We were just talking about the area here and the potential, and the fact that it'd be great if we could bring some new jobs to the community and take advantage of the assets like the lake and the hotel, etc. The industries here, and out of it came the thought that if we put some money into the hat from the community and all rolled up our sleeves and put together a program to bring jobs to this area, it might work.
And it has created thousands of jobs since its inception of going out and recruiting different companies to come here.
Well, a number of the people in the community got engaged.
Right.
This is a giving area, and people contributed quite readily to reach the $1 million goal. Many of the government and business leaders, community leaders, all banded together and helped form the board of directors, and with a common vision. And then the organizations hired some great executive directors and staff over time, and those of us that I guess kind of got together and maybe spawned the idea can't claim much of the success after that. It belongs to a lot of people.
Well, without you creating it, though, it wouldn't exist. So you're always modest, but the creation of it is, and also the wise decision to hire some remarkable people. One of those is Bob Potter, who's now retired, but and Bob Potter's been another one that's been so supportive of areas such as our human rights work and all. So some wise decisions were made.
Yeah, Steve Griffiths. I mean, there's been
too.
a loyal core of people
Yeah.
in Jobs Plus.
Yes, there really has. Janelle Burke.
I've always been fascinated with the whole area, the whole industry of mining, and the number of different kinds of people who are employed within the mining industry. Can you talk a bit about the kinds of people that are necessary to make a good mining firm? And I think probably that would be true of a forestry or of a tourism or whatever industry, but you have to have more than just the head person or more than just the business person. What kinds of people are involved in the mining industry?
Well, in our corporate headquarters, for example, we have finance and accounting people. We have corporate legal staff. We have engineers, geologists. We have executive assistants. We have people with MBAs that direct our new business development or growth. Janelle, really a a cross section, and there are so many wonderful young students in this area. We have an internship program in the summer that we recruit from the area's colleges, outstanding students every summer to come in, and hopefully they'll become future employees of Core too, but really a multiple of disciplines, engineering.
Engineering would be very important, of course. Now, what about out at the site? What kinds of people do you have to have out there at the mine to manage the mine?
Well, we look for people that have experience in managing operations, whether they're surface mining operations or underground mining operations like there are in the Coeur d'Alene district. You need metallurgists, people that understand how you extract ore from metal. And then, of course, you need people that are actually experienced in mining itself, human resource specialists, mine safety people, environmental scientists. You have to take good care of the land.
And you're going to have some miners down there working in the mine or working with a surface mining. You probably have truck drivers, that kind of person, maybe explosive experts.
Yes. One of the major issues in the mining industry today is the availability of people. And there's been of course, a growing demand for both miners as well as the professional disciplines in the mining community, and that has put pressure on companies to really double their recruiting efforts and train people. We basically do a lot of training locally. In Bolivia, for example, even though it's a historic mining community, we've brought modern mining techniques and safety practices and environmental practices there that require training. Same thing in Chile. We're doing the same thing. We made an acquisition at the end of last year in December of a very exciting Mexican mining property, and we're in the process of staffing and training people there too.
Erna Reinhardt.
Dennis, your company, Coeur d'Alene Mines, has won several awards for environmental kinds of things, and I don't want you to go through the whole list, but maybe pick out one of those awards that you are most proud of and share with us what that award was for.
It's
That's like asking you to pick between your children, isn't it?
yeah, it's somewhat difficult to just select one. But for example, here in Idaho, years ago we had a gold mine in central Idaho called Thunder Mountain, and it was almost right in the middle of the Frank Church River of No Return wilderness area. And we operated there for a number of years without any environmental violations or problems. And when we left, we were claimed at creating some wonderful waterfowl and deer and elk habitat. It looked like a natural setting with a small lake that we had created, and we won an award for that. In our mine in Nevada, the Rochester mine, which is has been operating now for 22 years. I think that mine led to our receiving the first ever National Environmental Award created by the DuPont Corporation for environmental leadership. And you know, that all really boils down to the people of the company having a strong belief that it's the right thing to do.
Great, thank you.
We're about out of time, and then next week I want to really get into some discussion with you of education and your love in that area too, and that ties to not only the business development but also you on your on other time you've been really committed to that. But with the time left, I want to follow up Erna's question about your very successful corporation. About how many mines are you or have you operated, and about what is your total employment? You really are helping a lot of people with their livelihood.
Well, Tony, as you know, we're a New York Stock Exchange listed company.
Right.
if you count mining contractors, those outside the company, as well as the employees, I suppose right now we directly impact maybe 3,000 or so people. We have 5 operating mines in different countries. We have non-operating interest in mines in Australia as well. We're exploring in Tanzania. So we are spread across the globe these days, and primarily the places that, of course, are friendly for geology. You've got to have the right rocks, yes, but also countries that have fixed rules of law, recognize the mining industry and people.
The other thing that's significant about your industry and all, it's not minimum wage jobs. You really pay well, and so that really raises the standard of living of a lot of the families. You must get a real great reward out of seeing how well the families are doing, because you do pay well.
We do, Tony, and you know, unfortunately in the United States, mining has become less prominent in terms of the employment, but it's still among the highest paying jobs in the world, and great blue collar jobs.
When I first came to Idaho a long time ago, and I came in 1970, I met you in 72, and I can witness the fact that Shoshone County was one of the most prosperous places in the area. That paid, and people were very generous. Charitable groups really got a lot of money from it. So, but you said something earlier today too about when, no fault of those who worked there, but as the demand was not as great, they were really creative in going into tourism and other things. And so, I guess my final question is to you. I just have such appreciation for the people there. Miners are very hardy people. I don't see them whining, and they're very, very strong, aren't they?
Yeah, miners are good, solid Americans. They have an independence about them. They have good character. They believe in helping their neighbors. They're just good, solid citizens, that's for sure.
And I found them very loyal to their friends. They really will stick with you in time of need, as you said. But Dennis, I want to thank you so much for being here, and we look forward next week. And I want to particularly get into the field of education with you next week. And I know our viewers are really enjoying this. And it's a very personal privilege to me to have you here, and I really, really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, please be with us again next week. We will continue this interview. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.